Our guest for today is South Jersey's Market President of TD Bank, Rob Curley. Rob oversees all commercial and small business lending throughout Mercer, Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, Cumberland, Salem, and Ocean counties, as well as overseeing all corporate and charitable giving throughout that footprint. Rob has been with TD Bank since 1989, where he started as a part-time teller. During the 90s, Rob's held a variety of positions throughout the bank that have served as a catalyst for his rising in the ranks, where he has been market president for the past 20 years. Rob's commitment and leadership to serving the community is not only seen in his day-to-day job, but he has always been extremely active in the community by serving on numerous boards. Over the years, Rob has been recognized for his leadership. Some include the Philadelphia Business Journal 40 Under 40, South Jersey's Young Professional Halo Award, Philly's Top Banker, South Jersey's Business Magazine Top 20 Executives of the Year, Civic Leadership Award for Camden County College, as well as Corporate and Community Leadership Awards for both Bancroft and Alicia Rose Victorious Foundations, South Jersey Magazine's Men of the Year in 2013, South Jersey Business Magazine's Power of 50 for 4 consecutive years, Nonprofit Trustee of the Year, and Rutgers Community Leadership Award for the March of Dimes Citizen of the Year Award. Hey, Rob, thanks for joining me today on Trusted Connections. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. So, Rob, I have known you for many, many years, and I believe as long as you have been the South Jersey Market President for TD Bank, which is 12 years, yes?
Actually, I've been the market president for 20 years.
20? Oh, goodness. Well, I was a little bit off on that.
Yeah. So I became the market president in 2020, the year 2000.
2000. Awesome. Okay. But you've been with TD for at least over 31, right?
Yeah. I'm coming up on 32 years. I started with TD right out of college and have never really had any other formal job except for TD.
Right. So what drew you to banking?
Well, it was actually, I was drawn in by accident. When I was in college, I wanted to be a real estate developer, and I was gearing all my life to be a real estate developer. And when I graduated from Penn State in 1990, the real estate market in the Philadelphia, New Jersey area was really not doing very well. So the company I was working for as an intern had a connection at Commerce Bank, which later became TD Bank. And they referred me to the bank and said, look, you can go do real estate deals on the finance side. And then when things get better in the real estate world, you can come back and be a developer. Unfortunately, that never happened. But fortunately for me, I got into a career I didn't even expect to get into, and I love what I do. So it worked out really well.
So what do you think are the key qualities of a good company that makes their employees want to stay with them? And clearly you've been with them, like you said, it's the only job you've had. So what is it about the company that, you've been so, drawn to want to stay with them?
Well, I think, number one, I have passion for what I do. I like helping companies grow. I like helping business owners, do things that, help their businesses grow and help their families and all that good stuff. But as far as keeping me here at this company, I think leadership is a big part of it. I've always been fortunate to have great leaders throughout my 31 years here, and having that relationship with a leader who kind of lets you do your job and doesn't really interfere, doesn't micromanage you, I think means a lot. And then when something does go wrong, you get their support. And I think that means a lot. And I've always been fortunate to have that. We also have great reward and recognition programs at TD. I've always felt like I got promoted when I felt the time was right. It's just, I think it's the whole package and everything seems to work out really well for me. But I think the top thing is leadership and who you work for. I think that makes a big difference.
So what about the leadership qualities do you think are most emphasized at TD?
So, the leadership qualities we emphasize, we call them our shared commitments. And it's basic things like think like a customer, act like an owner, innovate with speed. It's just certain buzzwords that we use. And we use it in everything we do, whether it's whether it's dealing with customers, whether it's dealing with internal colleagues. We all try to live by those shared commitments. And it's a pretty simple thing, and it sounds a little hokey, I think. But when you actually look at them and follow them, and you get other people to buy into them, it does work, and it creates a culture that is highly productive.
Yeah, culture is so important in business now, and I feel like it's something that people are realizing the huge importance that it plays in sustainability and growth for a company and its employees. And so what do you say is the culture of?
So our culture is a customer-centric culture. We call it WOW the customer. We try to put our customers first and foremost in everything that we do. We are in a highly regulated industry, and I think that creates guardrails and things that make it more difficult sometimes to wow your customers. So we try everything we can to always put the customer first and make sure that we are delivering what they need within the framework of the regulations that we have to abide by. But we try to do it in what we call a human way, and our tagline is Bank Human. Because I think banking in general can be very robotic, and we try to make it much more friendly for the customer to do business with us.
So how do you create trust with the customer? What's one of the main things that you try and help the team to work on in order to have that connection? Right.
So for me, it's all about delivering on what you promise and being upfront and honest. And, in my business, if somebody calls me, I'd never go home for the day without at least calling them back. And even if I don't have an answer for them, and at that moment, I at least touch base and tell them, hey, I don't have an answer for you yet, but I'm working on it. And I think that constant communication and feedback and just being honest with people really goes a long way. And on the other side of that is I deliver what I promise, and I encourage my team to do the same thing. Now, sometimes we can't give them what they want, and we have to say no. But again, if you do it in a compassionate way and explain why we can't do it, and explain to the customer, well, we can't do this deal today. However, if you do this, this, and this in the future, we could probably do business at that time. And I can't tell you how many times over my 31-year career, customers have come back to me 6 months, 12 months, even 2 years later, and did business with us because they trusted me. They liked the fact that I gave them honest feedback, and they executed on what I told them, and it turned into a great relationship. So to me, it's all about just keeping your promises, communicating, and showing compassion when things maybe aren't going as well as they should be.
Right. So have you always had the vision and ambition to stay with TD from the start, or was it more opportunistic from year to year that kept you around?
So it's an interesting question. So I can think of one time in my 31-year career where I was going to leave. And that was back in the 1990s when we were a Commerce Bank. And coincidentally, the reason I thought about leaving was because I was being put into a different job than I was doing. And it was meant to be a development opportunity, but I really didn't particularly trust the person I was going to be working for, and I actually went out and looked. But when I look back at that moment, it was probably the turning point in my career, because when you work for a leader who is not a very good leader, it actually helped me grow as a person and maybe kind of stand on my own. And that might've been the turning point in my career to get me to where I am today, because it made me a better leader who could do, kind of learn on my own and do things on my own, and not so much lean on somebody who is a good leader. So It turned out that opportunity was probably a turning point for me in my career.
Yeah, that actually leads right into what I was about to say is, I know it can be, so difficult for people to grow personally and professionally when you've been in a company for so long. So how have you continued to challenge yourself over the years to become a better boss and a better version of yourself?
Well, I like to think I check my ego at the door, and that I'm never going to be the perfect leader or the perfect employee or even the perfect person. So I'm always, every day when I wake up, I want to learn something new. I want to push myself. I want to test myself. And I really want to, I constantly drive to be better. And I think if you get content and think you are the best, you're going to get stagnant and stale. It's not my attitude. I want to come in every day with a fresh look on things. Our business evolves over time too. And I think if you don't keep up with it, you're going to fall behind. So I think for me, it's just about being humble and knowing what I don't know and constantly trying to learn my industry, how I can serve my customers better, and how I can be a better leader.
How do you help your team to become better leaders? Like, what do you go over things with them weekly, monthly? What kind of goals do you help them to create for themselves that they're able to hold themselves accountable for?
Well, the first part's easy. I mean, we get sales metrics that we have to meet. There's several things that the relationship managers have to do on an annual basis. So measuring the results is fairly simple. The hard part is making them accountable and able to meet those goals. Earlier in my career, I tended to be more of a doer. So when a problem arose, I would jump in and just solve it. And I felt like when I look back at that, people didn't really learn how to do things properly because I would do it for them. Now I delegate and I trust that my employees are going to do the right thing. And I let them, make mistakes. My thing is you can make one mistake, just don't make the same mistake twice. That's how I was brought up in my career. So I think it's just about empowering people to do what they need to do to deliver great service to our customers, and then helping them through things when they need help. And that's kind of how I do things. And I'm always available if somebody needs me. It doesn't matter if it's, at nighttime, weekends, whenever. If somebody needs me, I will pick up the phone and help them. But I really want my team to be empowered to do what they need to do to be successful.
Yeah, that's such an important part to keep everyone growing and to make them see a future with the company. Okay. Because everyone needs to feel valued and know that there is a growth strategy in place in order for them to be able to succeed personally and professionally. How do you help everyone stay focused? How do you help them to just stay on top of the ball? Is it through the sales metrics, or are there other things that you do on the side to just help keep everybody on the same page?
It's, I'm lucky. I have 4 great direct reports who help manage the team with me, help lead that team. And I trust them to do the right thing. So I think between my 4 direct reports and myself, we communicate a lot. We do a lot of meetings, either in person before COVID. Now we do them virtually, but we constantly communicate. We constantly talk about best practices. I had a team call last week where I took my 5 top producers and I asked them to explain to the rest of the team what were they doing to be successful and how were they driving business during COVID. And it was a pretty simple formula. They were working their phones, they were working their centers of influence, and they did it every day. They made it a priority. And I think sometimes people migrate to the administrative side of their job and focus on that because it's easier and it's easier to get things done. And most people don't like picking up the phone and calling and prospecting and that kind of thing. So, but I think when I had that call and those 5 people who are successful all had that common theme of we make it a priority every day to make calls and talk to our centers of influence. And that's why we're driving our business and having such great results. I think that resonated with the rest of the team. So I try to lead by example myself, and then I try to highlight those people who are doing things right so that they can help the rest of the team.
Yes, that's wonderful. What's the biggest challenge you've had to overcome in the past 30 years there?
So very early in my career,
I'm sure there's been many, but
yeah, there have been many. But I would say the biggest one was actually very early in my career. Back when I started 31 years ago, we still used typewriters, and computers were just starting to become a big thing. And we used to type our loan approvals, and I was a credit analyst, so that was my job. And I never learned how to type. So my output was very slow and I was not keeping up with the rest of the team. And I got put on written warning for 60 days. And, basically I was being, forced out of the bank. And I took that as an opportunity to, I didn't want to quit. So I used that as a way to energize myself and refocus myself. And then I turned it around and made it, I became one of the top producers and I had to adapt to do so. And luckily I had some people to help me through that. But, I came very close probably in the first 2 years of my career here to not being here. So that was probably the biggest single thing that I overcame.
Yeah. I think as long as people are able to hold on to a vision of what you want in the long run, it can help you get through those challenging times like that. But sometimes, there are certain things, certain environmental factors that can come in, and sometimes it can snowball when you feel like one challenging thing is happening after another. And, I'm sure a lot of people have had that complication now with COVID and everything that has been going on. And, the banking industry is always changing, and then throwing COVID into this. How has everyone had to adjust? I know in the beginning it was taking everyone, a little bit by surprise, and they didn't know how to, kind of readjust their sites and how to focus on everything. So how did the bank come together and help everybody to drive forward?
Yeah. So, I think what's happening right now is unprecedented. It's like uncharted waters, as I would say. And if you had told me back in the beginning of March that we were going to leave the office, and in September, I would sit here and tell you I've been in my office 2 or 3 times since then, I would have said that's impossible. There's no way I could do my job. That'll never happen. But it did happen on or around March 20th. We were all sent home, and we didn't know at the time how long it was going to be for. And here it turns out we are now going to be home until the end of this year. And we have probably 85% of our colleagues working from home right now. And fortunately, we have great technology. I didn't know what a Zoom call was back in March, but I do now. And I think it just became a comfort thing, and fortunately we have great leadership at our bank who, provided the tools we needed to be successful and continue to do our jobs. And I think one of the most remarkable things is this year was we had the Paycheck Protection Program, which, banks provided SBA loans to companies to help them basically survive during COVID. And, our bank did 90,000 of them for almost $10 billion in a 6-week period. To put that into perspective, normally we do 3,000 SBA loans a year. We did 90,000 in 6 weeks. And we did that from home. So the underwriters were home, the approvers were home, the closers were home. And it was amazing to me what we did in such a short period of time. And we couldn't have done it without great people, and people worked around the clock to do so, because I think there's a passion and an energy in our company that helped get that done. And our customers really appreciated it. We got a lot of accolades from CPAs and law firms where we helped their clients. But to me, that was a turning point for us, because it showed that we could be very productive in a virtual environment. And it also, our team had to learn how to use technology very quickly to be able to be successful in that. So I think, good companies learn to adapt and deal with what is out there confronting them at the moment. I don't think anybody ever expected this, but it's a great thing. It's a great story. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished this year. And we've been there for our customers. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. It has been. That's amazing that the company was able to pivot that quickly, which is, so important to be able to keep your customers, which is, at the end of the day, so important. What piece of advice would you give someone coming into the banking industry now?
I think when it comes to banking, it's always best to start on the ground floor. I think a lot of people coming out of college and so forth, or they want my job right away. But there's a lot to learn. I think when you know how to underwrite a business, and you know how to underwrite a financial statement, I think it just gives you such a much longer runway within the bank to do many different jobs, and kind of give you a much wider career opportunity. So I think if you come in and you're willing to start, in the beginning and learn the job from the ground up, you can be very successful in this industry. Takes a lot of hard. We always kid bankers hours. Well, I've been here 31 years, and I don't bankers hours to me are 24/7. So we work hard. We do what we have to do to meet our customer demands. And I think, to me, if you are willing to learn the basics and get a good foundation, you can pretty much do any job in the bank.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. So before we close here, I know you're on the board of a lot of foundations and you're extremely active in the community. What's one or two of them that you would like to highlight today?
So I don't want to insult any of the ones that I'm involved with, but there is one, actually two, that I'm pretty passionate about, and it's because I have personal connections. First is Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. I've been on that board now for 20 years, and that's because my son was diagnosed with JDRF, type 1 diabetes, when he was 1 year old. And my daughter was then diagnosed with the same disease when she was 9. So, I'm very passionate about JDRF for my kids. And then I'm also very involved with Special Olympics. I'm on the board of Special Olympics New Jersey. And I have a sister who's has a learning disability. She's 50 years old. I am her caregiver, and she's a great person. I love her to death. And she was a Special Olympics athlete back when we were kids. And I remember cheering for her in the stands and so forth. So I'm very passionate about Special Olympics as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon.
Sure. Can't wait. I'll see you. Bye-bye.